Set in a magical land full of treasure and monsters, Baldur's Gate 3 will take you on a huge journey full of excitement and glory. You may have heard about at least one of the many awards this game has received and thought it might be worth checking out. And let me tell you, I've enjoyed my time with it, but some of the mechanics and the way the game is played might surprise you. Allow me to give you a short overview of what to expect before rating it and placing it on the shelves in my bar. Through foggy eyes, you watch as a mind flayer places a terrifying slug full of teeth in front of your eyes before it burrows its way into your skull. Naturally, you pass out, and shortly after, a grand chase through different planes of existence ensues, causing the ship you're on to crash, giving you a chance to escape. When out in the open world again, you must gather some companions and find a cure for your new brain slug, thus beginning a grand adventure full of fights, treasure, and perhaps love.
Please, allow me to introduce myself. The stars, I mean. I could take or leave your chin.
You will find some very mature situations and graphics in the game. Nudity is there, but it can be turned off in the settings. The language wasn't overboard with profanities, and most of them were words that I would assume are unfamiliar to those not accustomed to the lands around Baldur's Gate. I didn't get a lot of the words, but I knew they were rude in some way. And you will see your characters covered in blood after fights, until they clean themselves up.
You might be a little naive in the ways of the world, but I see promise in you.
Who are you?
As with most great RPGs, you will get to create your very own character. You get to choose your race, job, and background. Then you get to undertake the daunting task of deciding what hairstyle you want, how to put the nose just right. However, there is a little more to the process than just deciding how you want to look. Every race will have special skills attached to them, so keep an eye on that. You will be able to change how you look, or even your job later in the game, but race and background are permanent through your playthrough.
Still your hearts and steady your hands. To battle!
Baldur's Gate 3 has a turn-based combat system in a tactics environment, requiring you to move the characters on their own and selecting an action. The order for every character in the battlefield to go will be decided by their stats and how the fight starts. It can take a minute to get familiar with combat due to the amount of actions you can take with every character, but if you read everything and stick to it, a lot of it becomes second nature.
You'll find the druids at the heart of the grove.
While not in combat, you'll get to explore the huge maps full of any number of discoveries to make. But movement out there is very much the same as in combat. You click on a spot and the characters move toward that destination. Sometimes you need to activate a switch or jump over a chasm. You can even get crazy and start stacking boxes on top of each other to create a makeshift staircase, so you can climb up to otherwise unreachable heights.
When you're in deep over your tadpoled head.
Baldur's Gate 3 is a very large game, with a lot to learn, discover, and figure out. If you're familiar with Dungeons & Dragons, you may have an easier time than I did figuring out the ropes. With the plethora of moves available, in and out of combat, you can get through any situation beautifully. If you want to understand everything, you need to study and read enough to earn yourself a PhD. The game is so cool in the fact that the only thing holding you back in most situations is your imagination or ignorance. Even after 100 hours of playing, I think you would be hard-pressed to know everything about this game.
Your power is great. So too must be your weapon.
So many different pieces of equipment to find and try out in this game. The classes of your characters will decide what the best type of gear would be, helping narrow down a little of what you want to look out for. But there are a lot of magical items bestowing its wearer with special abilities and skills. You can even swap gear out in the middle of combat for specific benefits depending on your situation. My favorite part was how gear you find at the beginning can take you through the entire game. Gear doesn't level up, so to speak, with higher stats. The growth happens through your character, so you don't have to say goodbye to that awesome pair of boots that helped you oh so much.
I guarantee the story of your daring rescue of my person will live on for eons.
Well, on your adventure, you will find a lot of different people wanting to talk to you. Randoms out on the road and your companions at camp will want to know your thoughts on the given situation. You get plenty of options on how to respond. Some options might stem from your chosen race or class, adding a little more of a role-playing choice to make. Sometimes what you want to say or do in a conversation requires a roll of the dice. If you fail to persuade in a conversation, it can take a very different route than what you may have wanted.
Beretta, rid us of this worm.
At once. Attack!
You know who we are. Very clever.
There are plenty of choices matter games out there, but I've never experienced one quite as nuanced as this. Boasting a huge count of over 17,000 different endings, every little choice you make or don't make can affect the overall story and outcome. Thankfully, you can save in the middle of a conversation if you want it to go a certain way, or even in the middle of a fight to make sure everything goes perfect. Or roll with everything that happens and see what comes.
Little serpent, long shadow. He'll take good care of you.
All I need now is a fire-retardant lover to get lost in till sunrise.
Now, I don't think this would be a proper RPG without giving you a chance at love, or whatever you may want to call it. All of your companions will have a small meter on their stats, showing you how much they really like or dislike you. Make enough of the right choices in their presence, and having good conversations with them, you could find your way into sharing a bed for the night. Sometimes, you don't even have to work hard. It seems like some companions are a little more amorous than others.
Experienced in more intimate surrounds?
I put off playing Baldur's Gate 3 for a while due to the estimated playtime of 58 hours for the main story alone. And not being familiar with D&D, I was very intimidated. After putting in a few hours and getting more comfortable with the mechanics, it really started to grow on me. And I have an amazing community along for the ride, giving me small tips here and there, a real boon. But even with all the help, I still managed to forget some obvious skills or something that would have made my adventure a lot easier. I feel like that added a fun flair to my game. Ignorance makes for an interesting story. There was a main story encompassing the entire adventure with so many side quests to explore. Some being found in the wilds while others were given to me from the companions I had in camp. I wouldn't say the stories were out of this world awesome, but there were a lot of them, and they all had different outcomes depending on the choices, showing a lot of impressive work put into this game. Given how many possible combinations of stories, I would say there is a lot of replayability to this game. Now, Baldur's Gate 3 isn't without minor annoyances or difficulties with mechanics. Like, moving around felt tedious and unnecessary, or the daunting task of managing my inventory. Luckily, there are plenty of mods to help fix some of these issues. I haven't tried any out, but I hear from reliable sources they can make a huge difference in your game, easing a little of the busy work involved with getting through. As of this writing, I'm just over 30 hours into the game, and I don't think I'm even halfway through. I'm really enjoying the game, and I plan on finishing it. There have been a few spots where I felt overwhelmed or bored, but they pass and I can enjoy the game again. Some parts of the game are a little slow for my taste. Have you played Baldur's Gate 3 yet? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like what you've seen so far, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe for more reviews in the future. And that brings us to the rating of Baldur's Gate 3. Visuals are top-notch, considering how much game there is, coming out at a 5. The story, or rather, stories, are aplenty and entertaining. I'm giving it another 5. Gameplay had a few quirks here and there, but overall, it's getting a 4. With the intricacies of all the different stories, I feel replayability is quite high for the game. If you feel like spending hundreds of hours again, that's a 4. I like the game, but it's not keeping me up at night with excitement looking forward to playing it again. I'm feeling a 3. Coming out to an average score of 4.2, rightfully earning its spot in the special reserve. It's an amazing game with so much love and effort put into it by the developers. I can't help but be impressed when playing the game and thinking of all the different ways to do anything. I would definitely recommend giving this game a shot. You can make it, even if you don't play Dungeons & Dragons and understand how it all works. I'm managing and it's great. If you want to check out some other RPGs or adventure games I've reviewed, check out the links over there. It's an ever-growing list.